audio description for live events is ever evolving. And let's get into a conversation here about how AD is offered and some of the preferences that are out there that we each have. We welcome our arts consultant, Christine Malec, to the table. Chris, if somebody has not ever experienced description at a live event, how might it work?
Most of the time, what will happen is we're talking about something like a play or a dance performance. And so, what will happen is, of course, this has to be all agreed to and paid for and facilitated by the theatrical company and the theater itself. So as the consumer, you would enter, you would have registered beforehand. You would either get a dedicated little audio device with a headphone jack, or there'd be an app on your phone. And during the performance, and well, it would start before the performance, there's usually some what they call pre-show notes. And so that's maybe about 10 minutes of an audio describer telling you things about the theater itself, what it looks like, but also things about the performers and the performance that there might not be time for during the show. So you'd get physical descriptions of the actors and some stuff about sets and maybe some things about how the action is carried out. And then during the performance, what you would get is same as in a movie or TV. Between dialogue, you would have an audio describer who's live. They're sitting in a sound booth at the back of the theater somewhere, and they're speaking live. So they've done a lot of prep. They've probably seen the performance once or twice. They've done a ton of research. They've hopefully had a chance to talk to the performers a bit. And so they know more or less what to expect. And they are giving you live audio description of the performance. And so they will also be able to sort of ad lib, telling you when things change. Like if the audience laughs unexpectedly, they'll be able to help you understand why that's happening. So that's what audio description would be like at most live events that are described.
But is there something for you that leads the way?
Um, I might almost answer to that the innovation, because as you say,
Yeah.
it's evolving. And so, for example, one iteration of live description that was really fun was the Toronto Pride Parade was sometimes live described, and that was not an earbud in your ear. That was usually JJ Hunt on a loudspeaker with a megaphone talking like so everyone could hear, and that was a completely new way for me. And another example of innovation is that uh, the the Disability Collective in Toronto is starting to do this, where before a show that's upcoming, they will expand the pre-show notes into a whole podcast episode. So you can listen like a week before and get a really deep dive into, maybe the 10 minutes of what a pre-show notes might have, but also exploring some of those ideas and giving background, like, okay, you're going to say this is a rural landscape. Well, let's break that down. What does that actually mean? So, and there's different apps and different technologies that are being used, and there's conversations that are ongoing about how, say, to describe dance. And so what I would say is that the most important feature or function of live description at this point is the innovation, that nothing is locked in, and there are still active conversations going on, active processes about how can we do this differently? How can we do this more deeply? How can we do this in a way that's more meaningful and rich and accessible? So, if you couldn't attend the Rocky Horror Picture Show last Halloween, you can still, even today, you can go to the Disability Collective podcast page and listen to the pre-show notes, and you'll learn a ton of stuff about Rocky Horror. And so those, I'd say innovation is the most important thing in the field right now. I actually don't know too much about how description of live events kind of got rolling. I know JJ talks about having described the Pan Am Games in Toronto, the Paralympic Pan Am Games that were in Toronto many years ago. So that's the earliest iteration I know of. But you mentioned the problem of okay, which performances are we going to describe? It costs money to do it right, and how are we going to, decide? And there's an interesting innovation going on here with something called Gala Pro, and it's what Mirvish is doing. It's their answer to audio description. So instead of having a live describer in the theater on, say, one night out of a 10-night run, their performances are so big and epic and one might almost say standardized, that they have a standard description. So my partner went to The Lion King recently in Toronto, and it was using this app. So it's the description's already been done because the show is so predictable. Like, the show usually looks the same, that you log on to the app and you're getting a description feed that is not live, but is sort of keeping pace. Like, I think it's using your microphone a bit to make sure it's in pace with the show, because he said sometimes a description might get cut off by a new
Right.
description. So the advantage of that, well, there's lots of disadvantages, but the advantage is that you can pick your show. You can decide what show you go to. You're not constrained by the one show out of the whole run that's audio described. So it does have its advantages and disadvantages, but it's an example of where, different ways that companies are trying to get this work done and in place for us.
I think about, and I have arguments with people on AI and what it's going to do to audiobooks and things like that. We're narrators, the job of narrators. And you look at something like this and the potential, because why should you have to choose 3 out of the 5 plays that your theater group is running for this season? You want to be able to find a way to do all 5, and something like this could really be that way, especially if it's picking up on Christine delivering the line, "Well, I've had enough, I'm leaving." And it knows Christine leaves the room and George picks up his coat to follow. If these are important, obviously, cues, things, and how you could do that using AI and technology, what it simply means is there could be more shows done, more actual shows to attend. Every show in a run could actually have, hey, here's your headset, here's what you need with your device, away you go.
It's true. AI, I think maybe next month I'll talk about AI, because there's so much to talk about with this tool. And I really think that's not far away, because if an AI has the script, it knows the story arc. And
Yes.
that's sort of the essential for an audio describer, because they have to decide which things are going to be described. And in order to know what's important, you have to know the story arc. And if AI, they're sort of dabbling at describing video now, so actiony parts instead of just a photograph. And so I do think that that's not far off. And I don't think it's the death of audio description, because to my mind, what it does is it frees up a describer, a human describer, to become an artist rather than
Yes.
merely a craftsperson. So we can do the deep dives, we can do the pre-show notes, we can do what is a rural landscaper. When someone says, she dances provocatively, oh, well, let's break it down. And so it potentially, a lot of people are like creeped out and uncertain, but it's coming either way, whether we like it or not. And so I'm really interested in the ways that describers can leverage that and turn it into an advantage, so that describers can do work that's maybe actually much more interesting and engaged than just talking into a microphone.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.